Restaurant Empire 2 is the sequel to this game. The only addition that is in the sequel is an updated graphics engine and an extra set of campaigns where you can test your restaurant empiring in a completely never before seen way. So already you can tell this is a pretty, innovative game. They got a good backstory, a rich, lore-rich overworld, and it's got the deepest lore for a restaurant sim I've seen so far. So I first heard of this game, Restaurant Empire, in this DVD that came with some PC Gamer rinky-dink magazine back in the early 2000s, the glory age of PC gaming and other things as well. It's advertised as a lobster flinging demo, and it says you can fawn on the rich and then urinate in their crab bisque. It sounds great. Not only is there no lobster flinging in the entire game, there isn't even a crab bisque recipe, and I looked it up. So immediately you can sense the disappointment I had when I was playing this game as a young kid, 4 years old, because I was born in the year 2000, and it's just shocking, I guess while we're looking at this DVD thing, we should probably just look at what else is on it. When else can I talk about such a hidden gem of contemporary 2000s magazine DVDs? You get a bunch of demos for games, you get a couple of full games. In this one you get GTA 1 and the highly popular 1998 mod Action Quake 2. There are even some patches for games. I guess back in those days no one had internet fast enough to download patches. Then again, if you couldn't download patches for these mostly online games, then how are you playing them online in the first place? I don't know, I guess it was just a different time. We had a white president, there may or may not have been the Twin Towers in existence, I'm not really sure. Life and culture has definitely changed since this, buying patches era. Apparently there are some trailers on this disc too, we better check those out, because I want to do like a really thorough review of this thing. You get a trailer for Anachronox, pretty good game, people still, they recommend it. If you look hard enough, people recommend this game. You get an episode of The Animatrix. Again, this is not really a trailer, this is just an episode. You get a trailer for World of Warcraft, that's good, that game still, people still play that shit. You get Enter the Matrix, which is, whatever, who cares. And the final trailer is for Dead or Alive, so let's just have a quick look at that, and holy shit, this was on like a thing that I bought sometime in the past. So overall, a mediocre disc at best. So Restaurant Empire 2. So I'm playing through the Restaurant Empire 1 story because the story exclusive to Restaurant Empire 2 doesn't even involve the managing of restaurants. You manage like coffee shops instead. So I think we can automatically dismiss that as being a non-canon addition to the overarching lore of the Restaurant Empire series. So the game starts out with a casual conversation to your uncle where he details why his own restaurant closed down. It's got a great story. He gives 3 great reasons, one of which is prostate problems. This is never mentioned again in the game. It's literally only mentioned in this one space right here, and for no apparent reason, because I think the other 2 reasons were probably good enough. They just had to just slip in the prostate problems as well. Anyway, the graphics, they're not very good. People keep telling me, games slam, they're not about the graphics. You draw too much attention to graphics, they're not about the graphics. And I tell them, mate, I fully agree, but then I tell them, you're wrong, mate. And that's because when you try to do realistic graphics, and other games of the same year do them like 100 times better, you can conclude that the graphics of this specific game are not very good. And I think that's something noteworthy, because it shows that the development team was just not up to the task of making a great restaurant sim that we all wanted back in 2009. So in the game, after you build your restaurant and hire your staff, you don't really do much. It looks like The Sims, but you really have an extremely limited interaction with the whole running of the restaurant. It's all automated. You just kind of watch as commerce is produced, and you try to address the vague complaints that seem to be impossible to actually fix. Like, I kept getting noise complaints, so I removed like a bunch of tables from the restaurant, right? Because then, you know, my logic was less tables, less people, less noise producing patrons. But then you still get the same number of noise complaints, and I'm also making less money at this stage. Also, the tutorial at the beginning of the game is like way too long. It's like an hour long, and that's because there's all these fucking buttons at the bottom of the screen, none of which can directly or indirectly address the constant barrage of noise complaints I kept getting throughout the game. Oh, and there's like chef tournaments as well. So that's Restaurant Empire 2. It doesn't really live up to the crab bisque urination we were all promised, but I give it a 10.